Chapter 148, You're the Culprit. Originally, an expert like Yi Qingchen was someone who Yang Kongkun would definitely not want to provoke. Not to mention the fact that he may have a powerful backing, his own martial arts was more than enough to make Yang Kongkun apprehensive. Yang Kongkun was now helpless. The troops of the Nangong family would arrive tomorrow, and it was obvious that they were extremely suspicious of their Yang family. If they cannot give a proper explanation when the Nangong family arrives, both their families would definitely break out into a conflict, and the Ling family would definitely not be a mere bystander. The Ling family would definitely add fuel to the fire, and the Imperial family would definitely hit them when they are down. At that time, the Yang family would be facing 3 different enemies and would surely suffer a great loss. Now that Yi Qingchen appeared, the Yang family had the chance to drag the Ling family into this mess. Even if he knew that this was akin to quenching his thirst with poison, Yang Kongkun did not have a choice. No matter what, they would have to survive this tribulation first. Duke Ling's voice then sounded, "That darn old man is crazy. That old fogey actually dares to surround my Ling mansion with troops. This old man will go and reason with him. If he dares to do anything funny, this old man will definitely beat up that old scum for sure." As Duke Ling scolded, Yang Kongkun's appellation changed 3 times. Just when Ling Tian, Yi Qingchen and Yi Bingyan walked out from his courtyard, they saw old Madame Ling rushing over with a few maids. Yang Kongkun led his troops here to catch the culprit, and old Madame Ling knew that Nangongla was killed under Ling Tian's command. Thus, even the extremely stable old Madame Ling could not help but feel flustered from a guilty conscience. The first thing she thought of was to ask Ling Tian what exactly was going on. After old Madame Ling met Ling Tian's group of people, she immediately noticed Yi Qingchen. He was dressed in a green robe made from cloth and had a sign made from bamboo poles. He did indeed look like a fortune teller from the pugilistic world. However, Yi Qingchen just looked far too calm. Even though he knew that there were thousands of elites at the doorstep of the mansion to capture him, he was not the least bit flustered. His expression did not change, his steps steady, with a confident smile on his face. This is definitely an extraordinary person. This was the first judgment made by old Madame Ling. He is definitely not an ordinary fortune teller for sure, and is probably a hermit who had concealed himself from the world. For my own grandson to invite him back personally, how can he be someone ordinary? Old Madame Ling ignored Ling Tian and cupped her fists towards Yi Qingchen with a smile. "Mister, it is our pleasure to have you here." Yi Qingchen smiled and wanted to say something. But when he was about to open his mouth to say something, his expression turned awkward and was suddenly stopped. You have to know, the status of the green-dressed fortune teller was extremely exalted. Even facing someone like old Madame Ling, he was still far higher than her in terms of status. Now that he had become sworn brothers with her grandson, how should he address her? Thinking about that, he could not help but look back and glare at Ling Tian. At the start, Ling Tian did not understand why he was being glared at and was stunned for a moment. A short while later, Ling Tian immediately understood Yi Qingchen's concern and could not help but laugh. Then, Ling Tian whispered, "Just call her whatever you want. With old brother's old age, I don't think you will be able to kowtow down, right? Ha ha ha." Yi Qingchen was extremely depressed, almost wanting to beat Ling Tian up on the spot. However, old Madame Ling was greeting him presently and he could not ignore her. Thus, he could only give a vague reply, Old Madam, it is this Yi's pleasure." Old Madame Ling replied with a smile. Looking at the sly smile on her grandson's face, old Madame Ling could not help but scold, "Little brat, how can you not inform grandmother that a noble guest is here?" Ling Tian stopped laughing and replied, "Grandmother, this is." As he said that, he looked towards Yi Qingchen. Yi Qingchen then glared at Ling Tian as though he was trying to say, "If you dare to say that we are sworn brothers, this old man here will definitely take care of you." This is Yi Qingchen, Mr. Yi. He is my old brother. Friend. Seeing how Ling Tian was stuttering and even exchanging signals with Yi Qingchen, old Madame Ling began to misunderstand something. Old Madame Ling had always thought that Ling Tian had a mysterious and extremely talented master ever since he was young. If not for that mysterious master, the Ling mansion would have probably been ruled by Ling Kong by now for sure. To the whole Ling mansion, this was definitely a great favor. However, she had been unable to meet this mysterious master of Ling Tian and had made old Madame Ling feel extremely depressed. Now that she saw the strange expressions on the both of their faces, old Madame Ling would naturally think that Yi Qingchen was Ling Tian's master. As such, she immediately said respectfully with a smile, "So it is Mr. Yi." "Rest assured, Mr. Yi, as long as Mr. Yi is in our Ling mansion would definitely ensure your safety. Mr. Yi has a great favor towards our Ling mansion. If you were to meet with an accident in our Ling mansion, how would our Ling mansion have the face to survive in this world?" Favor? Where did this favor come from? Yi Qingchen was completely confused. "Since when did I have a great favor towards your Ling mansion?" He then looked towards Ling Tian and saw that Ling Tian was giggling, signaling to him to not deny the matter. "Just what is going on here?" Old madam is too courteous. It is no effort at all and not worth remembering," Yi Qingchen said, with a head full of confusion. "Damn it, I must definitely question this brat later. It may be nothing big to Mr., but it is a gigantic favor to our Ling family, akin to giving our Ling family a chance to be rebirthed. Furthermore, this old lady will also have to thank you for educating this mischievous grandson of mine," old Madame Ling said solemnly. Seeing that Yi Qingchen did not deny what she said, her respect towards him grew. The commotion by the doors of the mansion grew louder and louder, and Ling Zan's voice began to grow louder and louder as well. It seemed as though they were really about to fight already. Yi Qingchen then smiled awkwardly and said, "Let us settle the matter by your doorstep first." As they walked to the entrance of the Ling mansion, they were all startled. There were two old men glaring at each other like they were in a cockfighting ring with all the blades of the Ling family's guards out of their sheaths. All of these men were personally picked out by Ling Zhou from the army. How would they be ordinary? Outside the mansion, the elites of the Yang family were also fully dressed in armor, with killing intent emanating from them. There were over 1,000 of them who were present. Behind Yang Kong, there were two emotionless-looking plain-dressed old men. Occasionally, there would be a divine light shining from their eyes, obviously showing signs of profound inner qi. Behind Du Kling, there were also two black-dressed men with a concealed aura, looking as though they were experts as well. Ling Tian whispered with doubt, "Grandmother, who are those two black-dressed men behind grandfather? Why haven't I seen them before?" Old Madame Ling patted him on the head and said, "These two are your grandfather's personal guards. When your father frequented the battlefield in the past few years, your grandfather had sent them to your father's side. Now that there are no more battles, the both of them would naturally return. This time, the lineup of the Yang family really cannot be underestimated. This cavalry is obviously the elites amongst the elites. Don't tell me Yang Kong is really planning to commit a heinous crime and fight our Ling family?" Ling Tian studied Yang Kong carefully and laughed. "That old man is putting nothing more than a false bravado. If our Ling mansion was his intention, he would have already launched an attack for sure. For him to be only arguing with grandfather, it can be seen that his only motive is Mr. Yi." Without a trace of concern in his words. "He, Yang Kong, still do not have the rights to take away someone from our Ling family." Old Madame Ling snorted, "Look at how this old lady will shatter that old goat's head with my walking stick." "Please wait, old madam." Yi Qingchen walked forward calmly with a relaxed smile. "Since Yang Kong is here for this Yi, then let this Yi send him away." Before waiting for old Madame Ling's reply, Yi Qingchen had already taken a step out. Old Madame Ling was stunned and wanted to follow him forward. However, Ling Tian pulled her back and shook his head. "Grandmother, watch this show quietly. I want to see how Yang Konkun will conclude this matter." Old Madame Ling's face turned serious as she asked softly, "Yi Qingchen isn't the one who took action this time? The way that darn old man is acting, it seems as though he has concrete evidence. Mr. Yi has bestowed our Ling family with a great favor. Even if he is an expert, it would be difficult for him to fight against such numbers. He must definitely be careful." Ling Tian then revealed a sly smile. "Rest assured, grandmother, Mr. Yi isn't the one who took action. Grandson is certain that this old man Yang will definitely go back depressed this time. He definitely will not be able to touch Mr. at all. Our Ling family can even use this opportunity to build up our reputation, becoming an existence that even the Emperor of the Sky-bearing Empire would not dare to touch." Old Madame Ling's face was filled with doubt, but Ling Tian did not explain anything. On the other side, Yi Qingchen had already opened his mouth. "I heard that the family head of the Yang family is here to catch this old man. I wonder what crime this old man committed?" As he opened his mouth, everyone quietened down immediately and looked at this person who was at the heart of this storm. They all never expected him to walk out so easily. Yang Konkun's eyes narrowed and said with a sneer, "Mr.'s martial arts is extremely profound, killing 100 people alone and murdering the young noble of the Nangong family, Nangongla. After that incident, you did not escape and still dare to appear out in the open. Your courage is something that this Yang really admires." Looking at Yi Qingchen, Yang Konkun seemed to be extremely confident and calm on the surface. However, he was extremely nervous in his heart. From the loud roar last night, there wasn't a single expert in the Yang family who didn't feel their hearts tremble. Just how many of such experts could there be in the world? At the very least, the Yang family did not have any of such experts. Knowing that they were here to capture him today, everyone was prepared to die here today. Since Yi Qingchen was such an expert, how would it be possible for them to capture him without paying the price? Besides that, it is extremely likely that he will escape, even if the Yang family were to pay a heavy price. After a long discussion, they finally decided to send the two most powerful experts of the Yang family to guard Yang Konkun. This is to ensure that Yang Konkun would not fall into the hands of the enemy and become a hostage. As for the remaining experts, they would dress up as normal guards and hide themselves amongst the Heavenly Blade troops. The moment a fight breaks out, they would be able to catch Yi Qingchen off guard and capture him in one fell swoop. Yi Qingchen's expression was extremely calm and unperturbed. Occasionally, there would be a look of disdain in his eyes. "Family head Yang, this Yi is just a fortune teller trying to make a living in the pugilistic world. I never expected that entering the capital would make family head Yang think that I am a murderer. This is really the biggest joke in the world. In the world, you would find it hard to take a single step forward without a proper reason. Catching a thief or adulterous couple cannot be based on the one-sided statement of someone. You said that this Yi is the murderer, alright. I wonder what evidence or witnesses you have?" Chapter 149, Imminent Peril. Although Yi Qingchen was resentful, but being a kind-hearted person, he still gave a way out for Yang Konkun to salvage himself. So long as Yang Konkun did not intend to take things too far, Yi Qingchen did not intend to drop all pretense of cordiality and reveal his identity today just for today's matters. However, Yi Qingchen did not imagine that Yang Konkun, facing the pressure from within the Sky-bearing Empire as well as the external pressure towards his family, had already reached a stage where he could only knock the bow and shoot. In the latter's eyes, while Yi Qingchen was powerful, he was just one person and could be easily contained. If his strength had no limit and could not be contained, Yi Qingchen could still be framed as the suspect for the murder. At the same time, it could also serve as an explanation to the Nangong family, that the murderer was too valiant and that they tried their best. Thus, Yang Konkun had no choice but to make a move. The way the Ling family conducted themselves was clean, without any vestiges nor seams. However, a blight had happened in the inner circle of the Yang family. Thus, they had no time to care about the Lings. However, if they really let it be and allowed this expert to enter the Ling family, then with such an expert helping them out, by the time the dust settled over the matter of the Yang and Nangong family, the Lings would long have overtaken the Yangs. This could not come to pass. Therefore, with such an opportunity as Yi Qingchen appearing, it was akin to killing two birds with one stone, and no matter what, Yang Conku had to grab on tight to it. Only then could he throw the Ling family into a mess, preventing them from accepting this expert. No matter how profound Yi Qingchen's martial arts were, he was, after all, only a member of the pugilistic circle. With the right price, taking him down to divert the attention of the Nangong family, the Yangs would finally obtain a breather. Compared to the threat of the Nangong family hovering over them, Yang Conku felt that their chances were better if they faced off with this unknown expert. At least, his losses could be controlled. Of course, this whole affair was based off the fact that Yang Conku was not aware of Yi Qingchen's identity. If not, he would not have even dared to look at him. Never in his dreams did Yang Conku think that the trouble riled up by offending Yi Qingchen would be 10 times more terrifying than provoking the Nangong family. If he knew of the latter's status, he would probably be so depressed that he would commit suicide. Ha ha ha. Fortune teller? Yang Conku scoffed in disdain. Only fools would believe so. With such outstanding movements and strong internal energy, one could already be classified as a top-level expert. How could he be a mere fortune teller? Yi Qingchen furrowed his brows, leaking out an imposing aura as he spoke. Does family head Yang have a problem? Is it that you have a problem with us fortune tellers? His patience towards Yang Conku was rapidly wearing thin. Having just awoke with a hangover, his mood would naturally not be good. To meet with such a matter early in the morning, a perfectly innocent person being maligned, this was a first for Yi Qingchen, who had roamed the world for the past tens of years. Even a clay man would still possess its original characteristic of mud, let alone someone who was of such a high stature as Yi Qingchen. Since you're a fortune teller, why don't you help this old man to read his fortune? Yang Conku had on a dark expression, because this man was still under the Ling family's roof. The moment they made a move, the Ling family would definitely not sit by idly. With how accomplished this fortune teller was in martial arts, there was a need to separate the relations of the Ling family with this person. The best way to do so would be to rip apart the fortune teller's facade, so the Ling family would realize that they were being deceived and naturally stand out of this matter. If the Ling family retained its stand of interfering, then Yang Conku could actually make use of the authority bestowed by the Emperor Longxiang to ensure that his plans succeed. Furthermore, the Ling family can even be made to shoulder the brunt, allowing him to sit on the sidelines, reaping the rewards after everyone got injured. Yi Qingchen smiled slightly. If that's the case, it isn't anything hard. Family head Ling, may I trouble you to prepare a table with some writing essentials? This went completely out of Yang Conku and Ling Zan's expectation. How did this talk divert towards fortune-telling all of a sudden? Old Madame Ling was the only one that remained alert. She immediately bade a servant to prepare the items swiftly, and everything was brought out with just the time taken to prepare a cup of tea. Yi Qingchen seated himself on one side of the table, gesturing to Yang Conku. Family head Yang, please confer upon me a word. Yang Conku did not expect that this peerless expert would actually ask him for a word to predict his fortune. But since he had already spoken so before, there was no way for him to go back from his words. As such, Yang Conku could only signal to the two guards beside him. In the event somebody makes any unexpected moves, they are to take action immediately. Yang Conku did not dare to tarry. He walked over carefully and wrote down the word every. Yi Qingchen smiled before continuing. Will family head Yang please stretch out your hand for an examination, so I can confirm the meaning of your word. Stretching out his own hand, he caused the entire crowd to go into shock. Yang Konkun was, after all, a politician and of shallow martial arts background. To an expert such as Yi Qingchen, it was as good as fighting a toddler. If he were to really give his hand, would that not be sending himself to his death? However, this was sufficient to show the extraordinary bearing of Yang Konkun. With only a slightly pale face, he stretched out his right hand towards Yi Qingchen, at the same time saying, "Since Sir is an expert amongst experts, I believe you will not do something as despicable as seizing my hand, am I right?" Yi Qingchen laughed as in response and did not touch his hand, merely scrutinizing it. In this solemn atmosphere, he suddenly burst out into more laughter, smiling at Yang Konkun as he cupped his fists. "I must congratulate you, family head. It seems like you're expecting." Everyone started to sweat at this statement. This was no laughing matter, telling a grandfather, and what more one of the fathers of a nation, that he was expecting. That would probably be the worst insult and ridicule one could ever think of. Seeing their family head being insulted, the Yang family blustered, almost striking out. However, Yang Konkun did not flare up. But instead withdrawing his hand, he said, "Mr. must be joking. This Yang might be old, but I'm still a man through and through, how could I be expecting?" This was actually the first time he had spoken in such a level tone to Yi Qingchen. Yi Qingchen beamed, when observing palmistry, the left is for males, and the right for females. I'm sure family head knows that the word every is made up of the words people and mother, one. Thus, it can be read as mother with people. Doesn't that mean that she's expecting? Thus, I believe that you must have taken in a new concubine recently, and even at your age, your vitality is still as strong as ever. Hence, she's already expecting. Many congratulations to you." Old Madam Ling began to muse. Seems like this old man Yang took in his 13th concubine just last month. Standing by the side, Ling Tian remarked in a voice that was not loud, but not soft enough such that the surroundings could not hear, "This old fogey, to think he has so much energy to keep doing it. Not only did he not die while in bed, he even got someone pregnant, how capable. I'm thoroughly impressed." While the Yang family members glared at Ling Tian, old Madam Ling gave Ling Tian a light smack, nagging, "What kind of nonsense is coming out from your mouth, rascal? Even butting your heads in your elders' affairs. If he's capable, that's his problem, why do you have to care?" In which way did this sound like a lecture? A look of shock flittered past Yang Konkun's face. If someone had told him that he had taken in a concubine, that was not surprising since this was something most people already knew. However, the news that his concubine was expecting was only passed to him yesterday, with nobody from the Yang residence even knowing of it at the moment. Did this person really have the ability to read palms? Yang Konkun's tone now carried a few more hints of respect as he said, "It seems like this Yang had judged you wrongly. Will this sir help me to calculate once more?" Yi Qingchen smiled in response, "What difficulty is there? Family head Yang, please put down another word." Yang Konkun's brain clicked and he wrote down the same word, every. Ling Tian opened his mouth at this time. "Don't tell me. The old man still has another concubine that's expecting? He has too much energy." However, the face of Yi Qingchen did not change, repeating the same sentence, "Will family head Yang please stretch out your hand for an examination, so I can confirm the meaning of your word." This time, Yang Konkun extended his left hand slyly and Yi Qingchen stared hard for a few seconds before speaking. "Just now, when family head Yang had written the word every, your word was neat but it showed your unsettled heart. Furthermore, you put out your right hand. Thus, it can be deciphered as a mother with people, which meant the good tidings of a newborn. However, this time, when you wrote down the same word, you were self-reflecting. Thus, your word subconsciously looked more like the word apostrophe, regret. This word bears the extraordinary aura of a dragon yearning for the sky. It seems like you have an ambition to become a dragon amongst men. However, based on the Book of Changes, at the extreme end of the 8 trigrams, the 9-9 sequence, 2, the haughty dragon regrets. Because it wanted to prove its masculinity, it did not know when to curb itself and could only end up bleeding and injured. Yi Qingchen's words stabbed into the root of Yang Conquen's heart, and his expression grew nasty as he hollered, "Bunch of bullshit. You're definitely the true murderer, men, take him down. Living or dead, it does not matter." At this point, a light reproach was heard, "Halt. To think you dare be so unbridled in front of the Ling residence." As old Madame Ling hobbled forth slowly, she exuded a frigid aura. The Heavenly Blade troops, which were poised to rush in, could only halt and stare at each other as old Madame Ling barred their way forth. Ling Tian secretly shook his head at the sight. Be it cavalry, tactics or sword skills, they were all considered perfect. Their battle strength was frightening and not at a disadvantage when facing his own private troops. While they could be monsters on the battlefield, in the capital, their arms and legs were all tied up. If this was Ling Tian's personal troops, they would crush whoever was in front, be it man or Buddha. It was kill or be killed for them. By lacking such determination in their mentalities, Ling Tian only felt utter contempt. "Old madam, please slow down. Yang Conquer will not do anything to me." Yi Qingchen retained that easy smile on his face as he stepped forward. "I don't dare to do anything to you? This old man has received the imperial decree to apprehend the murderer. With your extraordinary martial arts, coupled with your pretentious tales, why would this old man not dare to take you down?" "Ha ha ha." Yang Conquen's expression grew ruthless. However, his face leaked a hint of his fear. He suddenly raised his right hand, and dropped it as he ordered, "Kill." The troops that were on the verge of snapping responded with a kyang sound, as all their blades were drawn out at the same moment, rushing forward like the waves of an ocean. Yi Qingchen's eyes burned as he stared at Yang Conquen. His eyes filled with pity as he put his hands behind his back, and uttered leisurely, "The high heavens have no beyond, the great mountains countless kilometers." Chapter 150, Weak Finish to a Strong Start. Yi Qingchen's voice was again to the city's morning bell, resounding loud and far, all the way to the heavens. His voice actually managed to suppress the shouting of the 1,000-odd men. Everybody's ears were echoing from his voice, and it seemed as though the whole world was only left with his shout. In that instant, everyone felt as though they were seeing things. The originally mild-mannered and amicable Yi Qingchen had suddenly transformed into a severe and solemn person with a majestic aura. He was like a towering mountain which no one dared to encroach upon. The high heavens have no beyond, the great mountains countless kilometers. The ordinary citizens were in a daze, not knowing the reason as to why he shouted out this phrase when he was looking death in the eye. However, to Yang Conquen, this phrase was akin to a bolt of lightning slashing through his brain. His head was dazed from the impact, his originally tall and straight body beginning to totter. "Stop! All of you, stay your hands!" A frantic and impatient voice suddenly sounded. Turning their heads, the crowd found out with a shock that the voice's owner was none other than Yang Conquen. With a head full of sweat, he seemed to have met with some terrible accident. A few of the faster blades were already touching onto the sleeves of Yi Qingchen, who had not bothered to even dodge. But upon hearing the command from Yang Conquen, they could not keep their blades on time and could only forcefully push their blades towards the pavement. Upon contact with the stone pavement, countless sparks were produced before they managed to halt their advance. Old Madame Ling stood behind Yi Qingchen with her mouth agape, as though she was suffering from a stroke. The shock she got from the phrase Yi Qingchen uttered was in no way lesser than Yang Conquen himself. So it turns out, that honored sire actually belongs to. For today's matter, Conquen has indeed offended your honor, you could not have possibly committed the crime. He. Yang Conquen could only let out two mirthless chuckles, For today's offense, this Yang hopes that your honor will be magnanimous and not hold it in your heart. Conku will definitely come back to pay a visit and atone for my mistakes." Yi Qingchen replied coldly, "There's no need to atone for your mistakes, it's just that family head Yang should hold back on blindly accusing innocents. If your luck is bad, and you offend someone which cannot be offended, then I will not ever have the chance to speak with you again." "Yes, yes." Yang Conkun's forehead resembled a waterfall, sweat continuously flowing down as he replied, "Your honor is right in lecturing me. I was indeed too impetuous in my decision this time. Conku shall withdraw first." Yang Conku dipped into a formal bow at the end of his sentence. The crowd was at a complete loss. What exactly was going on with the family head of the Yang family? He came with such great fanfare, but after hearing an ambiguous phrase from a dubious person, he surrendered immediately and left. Yang Conku retreated a few steps before waving his head, "Disperse and return." From afar, he gave another formal bow to Yi Qingchen before walking off. In a split second, the doorway to the Ling residence was suddenly empty and bereft of people, without even a shadow from the people in the Yang family. The people from the Ling and Yu family now turned to look at Yi Qingchen, each with a complicated gaze. On his way back to the Yang residence, Yang Conku did not speak at all, his face black as the bottom of a pot. Hidden deeply in his eyes was a trace of fear and panic. When they finally arrived back at the Yang residence, Yang Conku got off from his horse immediately and rushed into the backyard, leaving a bunch of clueless people staring at him. When Yang Lei, Yang Zheng and the rest stepped in, they only saw Yang Conku sitting slumped on the seat at the front of the table, his brows furrowed tightly and his expression unsightly. Today's problem was even more thorny to deal with as compared to the news about Nan Gongla's death, almost making him feel like he was going insane. He could not help but shrink his neck in slightly, swallowing any doubts he had about this situation. Yang Lei, immediately send someone over to the palace and ask the Empress what are her plans, now that Consort Ling is pregnant? After you get the answer, rush back immediately and report it to me. Yang Conku calmed himself down with difficulty and began to issue orders. "Ah. Consort Ling is expecting?" All the Yang family members on scene let out gasps of shock. Who was not aware what sort of repercussions this matter could bring? Yang Lei did not dare tarry and rushed out to do his bidding immediately. Yang Zheng stood behind Yang Conku silently, using his hands to gently massage his shoulders. He knew that, at this time, what Yang Conku needed most was to relax. No matter what happened just now at the Ling residence, Yang Zheng believed that Yang Conku had a definite reason for doing so. Without a catastrophe that could annihilate their family, or some exceptional character, it could not reduce Yang Conku, who stood as stably as Mount Tai, to this state. The issue lay with the green-robed fortune-teller and the mysterious phrase that he uttered. Yang Conku remained still with his eyes closed, fatigue written all over his face. He suddenly asked, "Yang Zheng, you're the trusted aide of this old man, why didn't you ask me why we retreated so suddenly just now?" Yang Zheng replied solemnly, "If the family head wishes to retreat, he must have his reasons. This servant just needs to follow orders precisely and not ask too much." Yang Conku's eyes flashed with a hint of praise, but it died soon after as he sighed, "This time, we've really kicked the hornet's nest. That fortune-teller actually belongs to the Beyond Heavens sect." An expression of confusion surfaced from Yang Zheng as he queried, "Beyond Heaven? What sort of organization is that?" Yang Conku merely shook his head with a despondent look as he muttered, "I can only say that it is the pinnacle of power that exists in this world. Let's not talk about this. Prepare a good present for me tomorrow, I'll need to personally visit the Ling residence to apologize." At this juncture, the ever-stoic face of Yang Conku broke into a rictus of fear for once. One could see just how much he feared the true identity of Yi Qingchen. Seeing that Yang Conku had no intention to continue down that topic, Yang Zheng diverted his attention tactfully, saying, "Family head, How are we going to deal with the matter of the royal consort being pregnant? Yang Confrontation stood up to pace, his face transforming into a vicious look as he spat. Be it a male or female, that child won't be allowed to see the light of day. Yang Zheng nodded his head solemnly. On the other side. The inner chambers of the Empress. With a kick, a side table was flipped over by Empress Yangzhu. Bearing a malevolent expression, she hissed, "No. I won't stand for it. No one is allowed to snatch over the position I've protected for 18 years. No matter who she is." She paused, breathing heavily with bloodshot eyes. Her surroundings were in a complete disarray, but there were no palace maids to clear the mess, for she had sent them far away a long time ago. After a few more moments of venting her frustration, the originally opulent and majestic chambers had turned into an ugly spectacle resembling a garbage collection point. Her gaze grew resolute as she cried out, "Men! Hurry and summon Imperial Physician Su to my chambers." The Empress Yangzhu had finally made her decision. At the same time, at the pitch-black skies above the Ling outer courtyard, messenger falcons resembled black bolts of lightning, diving back to the courtyard bearing news. Ling Liu, Qi, Ba and Jia looked at the news spread out in front their eyes, all of them bearing the same grave expression. All of them stood up simultaneously and walked out from their own rooms, bumping into each other in the walkway. Only then did they awake from their reveries, and smile, their tension swept away in an instant. Ling Qi looked at the other three, and posed a question, who is going to be the one to inform young noble? The other three went totally mum. All of them wanted to go, to present this crucial intelligence report to the young noble. After a moment of silence, the four opened their mouths at the same time to cry out, "I'll go." All four stared at each other, unwilling to back down. "Forget about even going. You just need to pass the news to me, I'll deliver it to the young noble personally." A tone that sent chills into one's very bones sounded out as the shadows warped to form a man completely clothed in black, which had appeared behind the four of them soundlessly. "Brother Jian." The four of them saluted in unison, their faces filled with nothing but respect. In their hearts, other than the young noble who was akin to a god, this was the other person who made them both fear and respect him at the same time. After hearing the intelligence, Ling Jian eyed the four of them coldly as he remarked, "You guys better stay here properly to guard the place. When I'm back, I'll give you guys some special training. Seems like all of you have been too relaxed these few days, even your pot bellies are about to show." Without waiting for an answer, his figure flashed and appeared a few miles away, another flash and his silhouette disappeared. Special training. The four of them stood stock still. This was really the case of disaster strikes at the most unexpected of places. The four of them looked their bodies, well built without a hint of excess flabs, and they all felt like crying out. It was as though they had all sunk into a nightmare which they could not get out of. After countless methods, Yi Qingchen finally extricated himself from the barrage of thanks offered by both the elderly Ling couple and escaped into Ling Tian's little courtyard. The enthusiasm exuded by the old couple seemed to be overwhelming. This was nothing surprising. Old Madame Ling had mistakenly pinned the credit for Ling Tian's shrewd mind and talents all to Yi Qingchen, literally propelling him to a godhood. This caused countless beads of sweat to form on the latter's face. As to why Grandpa Ling was so warm, it was because of the awe-inspiring fact that Yi Qingchen could actually scare away that old man Yang with merely a sentence. Furthermore, being members of the great families, it was no surprise that they possessed news about the pinnacle existences of this world, and that was precisely the existence of the Beyond Heaven sect. Chapter 151, Brewing Storm. If all of these things were really done by Yi Qingchen, he would not be feeling so miserable. The problem is, Yi Qingchen was completely clueless about why he was being thanked, and even worshipped, by old Madame Ling. No matter how thick his skin was, his face could not help but turn red. He was feeling even more giddy than the time he drank 2 large jugs of hero's blood. After hearing that old Madame Ling and Duke Ling wanted to host a banquet for him tonight, Yi Qingchen hurriedly fled for his life. As Ling Tian saw how his old brother escaped back so pitifully, he was both surprised and amused. Yi Qingchen shook his head with a bitter laughter. "Brother, this old brother cannot stay in your Ling mansion here any longer. To think that all of the wine I drank here wasn't free of charge. You actually made me the mastermind of everything. This little brat is just too much." Ling Tian burst out into laughter and said, "Who asked you to be my old brother? Even if someone else wants to do me such a favor, I wouldn't be willing to. Furthermore, apart from you, how many others in the world would be suitable?" Yi Qingchen shook his head and sighed. "However, this old brother here should really be leaving." With a serious expression. Ling Tian was stunned. "While I did not ask why this old brother is here at the Sky-bearing Empire, I know that you have not done anything after arriving here. Why are you leaving so soon?" Yi Qingchen laughed and said, "Have not done anything? Didn't I make a new brother?" Yi Qingchen laughed. "This old brother is here because I felt that all of the powerhouses in the world were gathering in the Sky-bearing Empire. In a moment of curiosity, I decided to come here to take a look. I never imagined that all of these were all a result of you. In such a situation, it wouldn't be suitable for me to stay here any longer after my identity is exposed." While Yi Qingchen did not say why it wasn't suitable for him to stay here any longer, Ling Tian knew the reason in his heart. If the gathering of all powers in the Sky-bearing Empire was nothing more than a scheme, Yi Qingchen's original intention would be to break this scheme. Now that the both of them were sworn brothers, it wouldn't be good for Yi Qingchen to spoil Ling Tian's plans. However, Ling Tian would definitely have to employ some underhand means while carrying out his plans. If Yi Qingchen was still here, it would definitely be difficult for Yi Qingchen to make a choice. Thus, Yi Qingchen could only choose to leave this place to ensure that he wouldn't be caught in such a dilemma. Ling Tian was extremely touched in his heart and could not help but say, "Old brother can just stay here without any worries. How can I allow old brother to sully his reputation just because of me?" Yi Qingchen laughed and slapped Ling Tian's shoulders. "There isn't any reputation at stake here. If you are a vile and despicable individual, this old brother will not show any mercy when taking action, no matter how close we are. However, this old brother is certain that my eyes are extremely sharp. While you have aspirations and ambitions, your character isn't bad. Since the ancient times, sages have only the company of solitude. Only those who drink leave behind a reputation next to their name. For someone with a good taste in wine, your character can't be too bad. This is something which can't be feigned." Ling Tian was shocked. "Isn't that a little too far-fetched?" After which, Yi Qingchen looked at Ling Tian with a profound gaze. As long as the continent is not united, war would never end. If there can be a monarch both ambitious and wise to end all of these, it may not be a bad thing. Ling Tian laughed in response. "Old brother is right, only when the continent is united will the war end, returning peace to the commoners of the world." Yi Qingchen's eyes lit up and said, "That's right. However, such a goal is extremely difficult to achieve." Ling Tian smiled without saying a word. Yi Qingchen laughed and slapped Ling Tian's shoulders. "Brother, if you have ambitions, you must not trap yourself in this small sky-bearing empire. The world is extremely vast. Now that you have the time, you should go out and explore the world." Ling Tian's eyes narrowed with a smile. Of course. At the same time, he was grateful in his heart. He knew that Yi Qingchen was trying to remind him that exploring the world to temper himself would definitely be helpful to him in future. At the same time, Yi Qingchen also said, "Now that you have the time," as a hint to Ling Tian that the continent would definitely not erupt into war for the time being. You have to know, just what kind of a character was Yi Qingchen? He was someone who was indeed 100% accurate. How can his judgment be wrong? Besides, Yi Qingqian's judgment was also identical to Ling Tian's estimates. Can it be said that the heroes of the world would have similar opinions? Yi Qingqian laughed, as his body began to float in midair and he cupped his fists. "Brother, goodbye." With a loud swish, his white banner which was on the floor flew into the air and disappeared into the air like a rocket along with Yi Qingqian. Ling Tian shouted, "Ling Chen!" Ling Chen, who was in the room, threw out a small jug of wine with great chemistry. With a strong throw, that jug of wine was sent flying into the direction where Yi Qingqian disappeared to. In the sky, Yi THxChemSci could be heard and a silver light flew towards Ling Tian. At the same time, a roar echoed, "The skies are limitless, life is like a dream. Take care, my brother. May we meet again." Ling Tian stretched out his hands and caught the silver light in his hands. When he looked up again, not a trace of Yi Qingqian could be seen. As he lowered his head, Ling Tian saw that a white talisman, made of an unknown material, was in his hands. While the talisman was in his hands, it seemed to be light and non-existent. On the surface of the talisman were a few words engraved on it, "Life is like a dream." On the other side of the talisman was a picture of a beautiful scenery. "This is Ling Tian, young noble, Ling Jian is here." Ling Tian was still playing with the talisman in his hands and did not even lift his head up. "Is there news?" Ling Chen smiled, "Plenty." A wide smile could be seen on Ling Tian's face. "Is it finally going to begin? I am really looking forward to it." With a flick of his sleeves, Ling Tian entered his room. Ling Jian's face was a little excited. "Young noble, there is news." Without any exception, all the powerhouses had sent their men to the sky-bearing empire. The lineup from all the different powerhouses aren't small. "Oh? This was already within our expectations. Ling Jian, there is finally a chance for us to exchange moves with the experts of the world. No wonder you are so excited. However, you must not underestimate anyone. But, you came a little too late today. I met a brother yesterday who is an expert which you have never seen before. Dragons and tigers are hiding in the pugilistic world with no shortage of talents at all. You must not underestimate the heroes of the world, remember that." With a single sentence, Ling Tian had pointed out Ling Jian's thoughts. Ling Jian's face turned red as he nodded his head in acknowledgement. By the side, Ling Chen laughed, "Little Jian is always like that, being excited when he sees the opportunity to fight, hee." Ling Jian glared at her with anger in his eyes. "This last dares to call me little Jian?" Ling Chen did not cower and glared back as well. She was not like Ling San and the rest. Among all of Ling Tian's subordinates, she would be the only one not afraid of Ling Jian. "There's no one from the Yu family?" After reading through all the news, he did not find any news regarding the Yu family and could not help but frown. "Yes. It is said that the Yu family is abnormally quiet this time and there isn't any news about them. Perhaps, they did send men but we weren't able to find out because of their concealed movements." Ling Jian also found it to be extremely strange. All the top-notch powerhouses in the continent were here in the sky-bearing empire, except for the most important Yu family. Ling Yan lowered his head in thought for a moment and just could not figure the reason. He could not help but shake his head as he picked up another piece of paper. "What do you think about the news regarding the Nangong family? Ling Jian, do you think there is anything strange?" Ling Jian thought for a moment before saying, "There are approximately 300 men from the Nangong family with the Nangong Tianhu, younger brother of Nangong Yanglong, leading them personally. However, these 300 men from the Nangong family are extremely skilled." "Stupid!" Ling Tian shouted, "Let me ask you, what kind of a person is Nangong Tianhu?" Seeing how Ling Jian was unable to answer after a while, Ling Chen replied, "Nangong Tianhu is the younger brother of Nangong Yanglong, second in command of the Nangong family. His martial arts is extremely profound with exceptional skill in the sword. His cultivation of the divine sword manual is only second to his brother, and he can be considered a top-notch expert of the world. He specializes in the use of a broadsword and possesses peerless strength. However, he has an extremely bad temper and does not know how to scheme at all. Usually, he is extremely domineering and arrogant, not placing anyone in his sights. Besides that, he is extremely licentious, so. Ling Tian raised his hand to stop Ling Chen. If you were Nangong Yanglong, would you send a reckless individual to lead the family during such a sensitive time? Ling Tian's eyes lit up. Of course not. To send someone reckless like him to lead the family, he would only become the spearhead or the scapegoat for others. Then, does the young noble think that Nangong Tian who is merely a hoax? Hee. Ling Tian sneered. Nangong Tianlong really treats everyone else as idiots. If Nangong Tian who is only a hoax, how can there be anyone else in the Nangong family able to suppress him? The matter in the Sky-bearing Empire now is related to the situation of the continent. Furthermore, Nangong Yanlong's son died here. Do you really think he can let it go so easily? Do you think he can be so detached from the whole affair? Young noble thinks that Nangong Tianlong is here? Ling Chen, who was by the side, said with deep thought. Chapter 152, Men from the Nangong Family. The Zhou family's reason was actually because they heard that General Ling achieved a great victory over Western Han, and so they are here to congratulate him. Ling Jian had a weird expression on his face. What a lousy reason. Ling Tian snorted, but a lousy reason is better than nothing. The reason which the Western Han and Eastern Zhou's ambassadors gave were even more ridiculous. They actually said that they were here to offer their condolences to Nangongla. Since when did Nangongla become such a famous figure? The expression on Ling Jian's face grew even more interesting. By the side, Ling Chen had already burst out into giggles. The muscles on Ling Tian's face began to contort and he also burst out into laughter. I never imagined that this Nangongla also has so much face. I'm amazed. What he was amazed about was naturally not how big a face Nangongla had. He was amazed about how the faces of Western Han and Eastern Zhou were far too thick. Any other reason would be at least 100 times better than this one. However, those two empires chose to use the most disgusting possible reason. They obviously did not place the Sky-bearing Empire in their sights at all. Furthermore, the density of their enmity could also be seen. Ling Tian said hatefully, they should go to the southern Zhang if they want to offer their condolences to Nangongla, right? Nangongla merely died in the Sky-bearing Empire. Even if he were to be buried in the Sky-bearing Empire, it would only sully the soil of our nation. Both the Western Han and Eastern Zhou actually dares to be so unbridled. It seems like they still have great ambitions. If we don't teach them a good lesson, they will probably end up creating trouble. Northern Wei, Mengli Ge. It's actually him. Ling Tian muttered to himself thoughtfully. Ling Chen asked curiously, young noble, do you know this Mengli Ge? Is he someone like Mr. Yi as well? Ling Yan laughed. Chenner, you are thinking too highly of this Mengli Ge. For someone like Brother Yi, just how many of such characters can there be in the world? That Mengli Ge is also a fine character. Not only is he full of ideas and spot on in his predictions, he can be said to be one of the most famous character in the world today. Especially that Mengli Ge is the junior brother of Mr. Qin. The both of them share the same teacher, Mr. Ruku. Ling Jian and Ling Chen then responded with a long oh. Ling Tian then looked towards the sky, as though he was trying to make a decision, as his expression looked dark for a moment and bright the next. After a long while, he let out a smile and said, forget it, just let nature take its course. Ling Jian and Ling Chen then stared at each other, puzzled about what Ling Tian was thinking about. They then heard Ling Yan ask, Ling Jian, how far more are these troops to the Sky-bearing Empire? Ling Tian thought for a moment before replying, "The Northern Wei's Meng Liji is probably in the Sky-bearing Empire already. As for the rest of them, half of them will arrive tonight and the rest should be here by tomorrow afternoon at the latest. At that time, all of them should be gathered here." "Meng Liji is already in the Sky-bearing Empire?" Ling Tian asked with doubt. "The Nangong family and the Northern Wei should both be similar in distance to the Sky-bearing Empire, right? Why is the Nangong family, who just lost their son, even less proactive than the Northern Wei? Meng Liji actually managed to arrive first? Something is definitely wrong. Extremely wrong. Ling Tian, investigate it. Investigate it quickly." Ling Tian's instinct told him that the Northern Wei's actions were a little abnormal. No matter what, regardless of the speed at which the news was disseminated or the speed of their troops, the Northern Wei shouldn't be here before the Nangong family. But now, the Northern Wei was actually here first. This matter is extremely bizarre. There must definitely be another reason behind that. Notify the Violet Wind Gang to send out all of their men. I want to know every single detail about all of these people who enters the capital. Not a single detail should be missed out. As Ling Tian said this, his tone was extremely solemn and without room for negotiation. Ling Tian knew what such a tone signified. Thus, he quickly acknowledged the order with a bow. Ling Tian placed his hands behind his back and paced around the room. As though he thought about something, he turned around and said, "Ling Chen, where is the little princess of the Yu family?" Ling Chen replied, "She is said to be at Minister Wei's residence. I heard that Ms. Wei Zhuan was also grounded by her mother for visiting our Ling family too often." As Ling Chen replied, she looked towards Ling Tian with a mischievous smile. Ling Tian's eyes widened and was rendered speechless for a long while, before finally replying, "My famous reputation dragged someone down." Ling Chen began to giggle and Ling Tian could not help but smile. The scorching sun was setting, the sky filled with cumulus clouds. Outside the southern gates of the sky-bearing city, a large cloud of dust was being kicked up into the air, as a troop of black-dressed elites with black horses galloped over with a thundering commotion. The man leading the troops raised his hand up and the horses behind him stopped neatly, arranging themselves into an orderly formation. The lack of unnecessary movements fully displayed the discipline of these troops and how outstanding they were. But no matter how orderly they were, they could not avoid kicking up a cloud of dust, making it seem like the troops were in the middle of a whirlpool in the sea. By the city gates, Yang Lei and Yang Zheng, who were already waiting there, cupped their fists politely. "The second master of the Nangong family is here from a far place. Our Yang family have been awaiting your arrival already. We hope that the second master will forgive us for not picking you up from afar." The person leading the troops had a black and suntanned face, large eyes with thick eyebrows, a face full of messy beard, firm muscles on his face, and a ferocious-looking face. Holding onto a jet-black horsewhip, he looked like a black chimpanzee seated on a horse from afar. He then rolled his eyes and without getting down his horse, he asked arrogantly, "Where is Yang Kong? Why isn't he here to receive me personally? Is he looking down on me?" His tone was filled with dissatisfaction together with an interrogative tone. He did not hide his dissatisfaction at all, as though he was extremely frustrated about the fact that Yang Kong did not receive him personally. Yang Lei's face stiffened when he heard those words. "Preposterous. Your Nangong family is here from afar and is a guest in our sky-bearing empire. I am the eldest son in the Yang family and, while he is a servant, Yang Zheng is a trusted aide of my father. For our Yang family to send the both of us to receive you, it is already giving your Nangong family a huge face. You still dare to be so rude and look as though you want to blow your top?" Yang Zheng then stepped forward and said with an apologetic smile, "The family head is currently planning the capture of the bold criminal who dared to murder young noble Nangong. Now that there are some clues, he is unable to take the time out to receive you personally. I seek second master's understanding." He then sent an eye signal to Yang Lei as a way to tell Yang Lei to remain calm. Ha ha ha. Some clues? Catching the criminal? What a joke. Ling Tian, who burst out into a crazed laughter. It would be strange if your Yang family can catch the culprit. He was obviously trying to imply that the Yang family was the culprit and there wasn't a need for them to act so hypocritical anymore. While Yang Zheng looks like a muddlehead, he was actually extremely sharp. He then replied with a faint bitter laughter, "There is probably a huge misunderstanding in this matter. On behalf of my family head, I invite Second Master to our Yang mansion to discuss this matter and clear up the misunderstanding." Ling Tian, who then chuckled and said with sarcasm, "Then when this old man is dead, you guys can catch the criminal again? Ha ha ha, what a joke. What a joke." His face then turned serious. "We are not going to stay at the Yang family. Inform your family head, Yang Con. Tomorrow, this old man will pay a visit to your Yang family personally. If my niece suffers any grievances when she is there, HMPH. Without waiting for a reply from Yang Lei, the whip in his hand already landed on his horse as he pointed out and commanded, "Enter the city." The Black Cavalry then charged into the city like rushing waters, charging past both Yang Lei and Yang Zheng. Occasionally, some of the troops would glare at the both of them with a chilly gaze filled with hatred. By the side of the city gates, the faces of the guards were all in awe. Since when have they seen troops as majestic as such? Yang Lei and Yang Zheng then turned around and looked at each other. Yang Zheng's face was filled with worry while Yang Lei's face was ashen from anger, as his body began to tremble from the fuming rage in his heart. What an arrogant fellow. He actually dares to be so unreasonable. Yang Zheng then let out a depressed sigh. If he is really so arrogant, things would be handled easily. I'm only afraid that he is acting arrogant. If that's the case, things would be a lot worse. Yang Lei didn't have the least bit of talent in such an area and was completely bewildered by what Yang Zheng had said. Just when he was about to ask Yang Zheng, he heard the sound of the galloping horses from the city. A troop of horses then approached the city gates slowly, with a suave gentleman, eyes looking like the bright stars and face like a prized jade, leading the troops. This person was the young noble of the Ling family, Ling Tian. The thing which made the both of them the most disgusted was the fact that there was a beautiful girl dressed in white, with a bright smile and spring-like optimism, seated in Ling Tian's embrace. Ling Tian was also extremely depressed. The Zhou family sent a message to the Ling family to say that they were about to arrive at the Sky-bearing Empire. Old Madame Ling then sent Ling Tian out to receive their guests and instructed Ling Tian to take good care of little Miss Zhou. If he does not take care of her properly, old Madame Ling will give Ling Tian a good serving of the family laws. Helpless, Ling Tian brought Ling Chen along with him to receive his guests and decided to hug Ling Chen onto his own horse. While Ling Chen felt that this wasn't an appropriate thing to do, she would never disobey Ling Tian's orders. Furthermore, while her mouth said that she wasn't willing, her heart was actually ecstatic with joy. Along the way, they had attracted the gazes of all the passers-by. With Ling Tian's notorious reputation of being a silk pants, they would naturally not dare to point at him to comment. However, Ling Chen's jade-like face was still completely dyed red. Helpless, she could only bury her face into Ling Tian's bosom. At the same time, she also hoped that this moment would last for an eternity. As though he did not see Yang Zheng and Yang Lei, who was by the city gates, Ling Tian raised his whip as an order to his guards the moment he arrived. 40 to 50 guards behind him then responded by walking out with a bucket of water each. In that instant, the 100+ feet surrounding the city gates was filled with water. At the same time, an aroma was released from the water, making one feel an indescribable sense of comfort. A few others then stepped out to lay a thick red carpet on the ground which wasn't dry yet. A few others then took a large umbrella out, with a delicately crafted jade table being placed under the umbrella and plates of fresh fruits on them. In the sunset, an alluring glow could be seen coming from the jade table. Chapter 153, a confession of love. Only after everything had been set up did Ling Tian leap off from his horse. Holding on to Ling Chen, he leisurely stepped on the red carpet, walking towards the jade table at the far end. The city guards standing at the side, as well as the Yang family guards, almost had their eyeballs popped out of their sockets. What mental illness had afflicted this young nobleling today? Seeing how Ling Tian had zero intention to greet him, Yang Lei, who was a generation senior to Ling Tian, could only harumph loudly and spit out, "Uncultured junior," before turning his horse around and commanding, "Let's go." Seeing the Yang family leave, a smile hung on Ling Tian's face. Pulling Ling Chen to sit beside him, his expression suddenly changed to one of determination. Although Ling Chen did not understand the meaning behind this, she would never defy her young noble. Thus, she moved to perch on a seat beside him like a little sparrow, just that her actions were more constrained. However, she only felt jubilation at how Ling Tian treasured her. Ling Tian grabbed the 2 white jade cups on the table and opened up the seal on the wine. After batting off the offered hand of Ling Chen to pour the wine, he personally poured out 2 cups of wine. He then placed one in front of himself and another in front of Ling Chen. The aroma of the wine drifted up in the form of mist. This was precisely the famed wine, Maiden's Heart. A hint of doubt appeared on Ling Chen's pretty face and she hesitated a moment before receiving the wine cup. Seeing such a solemn and serious look appearing on Ling Tian's face, she could not help but feel a little worried at what was to come. "Chenner, I would like to tell you a story before we down this cup of wine." Ling Tian's expression was 7 parts solemn, 2 parts distracted and 1 part sentimental as he continued, "Do you know why I requested for such a huge red carpet today? Does it feel as though I've become a little crazy?" In a daze, Ling Chen shook her head and replied with a heavy tone, "Whatever young noble chooses to do, he will definitely have his reasons. Chenner has never thought that young noble would make mistakes." Her gaze was tender, like the gentle caress of the sea waves landing on Ling Tian's face. What she displayed was her innermost feelings, of her wholehearted and undivided trust, as well as unshakable love. In her eyes, no matter what this youth in front of her wanted, she would put in her heart and soul into it without any hesitations. Even if he commanded her to die. Ling Tian smiled as he stroked her face, before speaking in almost a whisper, "In a very far-away place, there was a country. In that country, a boy and girl once made a pledge that one day, the boy would hold the girl's hand and walk down a red carpet together. In their country, a red carpet symbolized the most scared existence in the hearts of all the youths. This was because the red carpet symbolized the beginning of a couple's life." A sudden gasp of awe sounded from Ling Chen as she bent down to look at the red carpet below her. Sparkling jewels of happiness could be seen filling up those dreamy eyes of hers as her lips trembled. Her chest heaved up and down in emotion as she raised her head to stare at Ling Tian with undisguised joy. At this moment, she had already forgotten the concept of bashfulness and the reservedness a lady should show. She only felt as though her entire heart could explode, so full of happiness she was. Boundless and limitless happiness seemed to enshroud her in that instant. Her eyes seemed to be unable to hold on to the happiness any longer, finally overflowing and dropping down. His voice seemed to be filled with some sort of magnetism as he spoke, his gaze tender as he stared at her. Stretching out his right hand, he carefully wiped away the sparkling beads on her face before cupping her face as he continued, "Chenner, I would like you to know today that while I may have other women in the future, and while I may not be able to give you the status of a legitimate wife, you'll be the only one who has accompanied me to walk on this red carpet." So overwhelmed with happiness she was, that Ling Chen failed to respond. She could only sit there dumbly, as though she had become a human vegetable, with half her soul having already flown into the skies. With a grin, Ling Tian now raised his wine cup, and tapped onto Ling Chen's wine cup gently. A clear ding sounded as he whispered, "Drink up, Chenner. From today onwards, you need not feel any more grievances." As though she had awoken from a dream, Ling Tian's body jolted, and fresh tears from her face dripped into her cup as she whimpered, "Young noble. You. As long as I can be by your side, Chenner is willing to do anything. In this life. I will never feel wronged, be it this life, next life, and for all my lives on. Thank you. Young noble." Ling Tian had on calm expression as he replied, "No need for further words. This young noble does not want you to feel wronged, and neither do I wish for you to sacrifice yourself blindly. You must live on, healthily and well." Ling Chen looked at Ling Tian with a questioning gaze as she stammered, "Young noble?" A warm smile resurfaced on Ling Tian's face as he replied, "Chenner, you must understand that it is simple for a person to die, but living on is the hardest thing to do. You must be someone for lives on for me." Hearing such heartfelt words, Ling Chen felt her heartstrings being tugged, and with an involuntary twitch, a portion of wine spilled out from her wine cup. "Ah!" Ling Chen stared at the spilled droplets with a face of endless regret. To her, this wine was a love token from the young noble, with every single drop being incomparably precious to her. Tilting back her head, she allowed the dream-like substance that was the maiden's heart to float down her throat, as though imbibing a whole lifetime of fortune, securing 17 years of youthful girly love. She then threw aside all pretense as she leaped into Ling Tian's bosom, as though she wanted to be absorbed into the arms of the man she loved. Holding on to her lithe body, Ling Tian felt a myriad of sentiments brewing in his chest. Throughout this few years, Ling Tian had long sensed the love Ling Chen had for him, ever since her first blossoming of love. Ling Tian was no statue, how could he not feel her overflowing love? But the shadow of being hurt by Ling Xuer still lingered in his heart, leading him to never trusting any female. Even for a childhood sweetheart like Ling Chen, he would rather seal up his heart tightly than to regret. For the past 10 years, watching Ling Chen, who was 2 years his senior, always treating him with so much care and concern, Ling Tian felt that she had already become an inseparable part of his life. This was especially so for the recent few days after Yu Bingyan stepped into the Ling family. Ling Tian had always discovered a hint of bitterness in Ling Chen's eyes when she stared at him, which left an inexplicable prick in his heart. Finally, he decided to bestow this cute little girl, who had never grumbled nor complained, a place that she deserved. Seeing Ling Chen crying tears of joy, Ling Tian also let out a long sigh of relief, feeling as though a huge burden had been lifted off his heart. Under the setting sun, the clouds were tinged with scarlet hues, and a huge carpet, the color of the freshest roses, laid outside the majestic city walls. On it were 2 figures in snow-white robes, hugging each other tightly, forming a wondrous picturesque scenery. From afar, one could see dust and smoke rising up. A troop, comprising of around 100 cavalry troops, appeared like a tornado, rushing forth recklessly. So fast were they, that the moment one observed the dust clouds rising, they would have already appeared in front of them. Just based on quality, this group of elite troops seemed to be a notch above the Nangang cavalry. From afar, a muscular person on horseback came out from the Ling family's troops to meet them. He cupped his fists as he paid his respects. "Are you perhaps the Zhou family's second master who came from the southeast? Our house's young noble has been waiting for you." With a command, the 100-odd cavalry stopped simultaneously. A man with a long beard and sharp eyes spoke in a calm and refined manner, "Brother, are you part of the Ling family?" That person was the head of the Ling family guards, Wang Tong. Upon hearing this statement, he hurriedly replied, "I do not deserve to be called your brother. My house's young noble is waiting ahead. Please allow me to escort you and your men, second master." Zhou Fengying looked past Wang Tong and towards the city gates. Seeing a luxuriously designed large red carpet with a male and female intertwined within, he could not help but let out a cold snort. While the Zhou family was reputed as the #1 merchant family, With ample wealth that could be said to be number one under heavens, what many people did not know was that they had a similar reputation regarding their intelligence network. Ling Tian coming out to receive them had long been reported to Zhou Fengying. Zhou Fengying was long unhappy with the reputation of Ling Tian, and even unhappier that the wise and far-sighted elder brother of his had repeatedly praised this rascally fellow. With his personal appearance at the sky-bearing city, he was actually greeted with such hospitality. Zhou Fengying was after all Zhou Fenghan's biological brother. While he had not passed 40 years of age, his seniority in the family could be considered high. If they were to really talk about seniority, then Ling Tian's father, Ling Zhou, was actually beneath him. It was still acceptable that old Master Ling did not receive him personally, but to think that they did not even send out Ling Zhou, only sending that silk pants to receive him. To think that Ling Tian would actually set up a banquet, staring at the scenery with an arm around a beauty, totally not placing him within his eyes. Zhou Fengying could not help but simmer silently. However, Zhou Fengying was one who was profound in schemes, and would not display his emotions in front of others. Getting off his horse, he replied blandly, "I would not dare to make young noble Ling wait, let us go and meet him." Obviously, he was extremely displeased with how Ling Tian was receiving him, fooling around with a lady without showing the slightest bit of courtesy. The mockery in his tone was sky-high. "Is the one dressed in white the first young noble of the Ling family?" A sweet-sounding yet cold voice sounded out as Zhou Yanzu stepped out from behind Zhou Fengying. Dressed in black robes with a black veil over her face, she only revealed a pair of clear and witty eyes. Chapter 154, Sudden Storm. "Yes, he is. Our Ling family only has a single young noble and do not have any first or second young noble." Wang Tong, who had always been following Ling Tian, was also used to being arrogant. Seeing Zhou Fengying's look of disdain and Zhou Yanzu's sarcasm, Wang Tong felt as though they had humiliated the deity in his heart. Thus, his words also became harsh. Looking at the troops in front of him, Wang Tong thought to himself with dissatisfaction, "You guys are lucky that all of you are not from the Yang family. If you guys were from the Yang family, those two sentences of yours will probably result in a fight." Actually, this was just like the saying, "The subordinate will follow his superior." Everyone by Ling Tian's side, be it Ling Chen, Ling Jian, Ling Qi, Ling Yi or even Wang Tong and etc., were all influenced by Ling Tian over the years. Apart from learning martial arts from Ling Tian, they were also gradually influenced by Ling Tian's pride. As they grew more capable over the years, they would naturally become more and more prideful as well, apart from when they were in front of Ling Tian. In the eyes of others, these subordinates of Ling Tian were extremely arrogant and rude. Just like how Wang Tong was acting today, it made Zhou Fengying and Zhou Yanzu despise Ling Tian even more. Seeing how an ordinary servant of the Ling family dared to be so rude to the second-in-command of their Zhou family, anger could be seen in the eyes of Zhou Fengying's guards. There were even a few of them who were grunting in anger. Zhou Fengying let out a cold HMPH and his chilly gaze swept past the troops behind him. In that instant, all his troops lowered their heads and released their grip on the hilt of their swords. At this moment, Ling Tian, who was afar, also noticed the commotion happening here. He then grabbed onto Ling Chen's slim waist and walked over leisurely, acting in a dignified manner. With a look of joy, he said, "Are you the second master of the Zhou family? Ling Tian had long heard of your fame and you do indeed live up to it. For me to have the chance to witness your grandeur, it is a great fortune to me." The saying, "Meeting someone in person is far better than listening to his reputation," is indeed true. The moment he opened his mouth, he was so glib-tongued in the way he spoke, reciting the typical opening phrase used in the pugilistic world. Zhou Yanzu, who had been noticing him, was angered to the point her nose became slanted. Zhou Fengying was also dissatisfied as he thought to himself, My older brother and your grandfather are sworn brothers. Furthermore, you used to have a marital agreement with Xor as well. Even if the marital agreement is already history, this old man here is still 2 generations older than you. You actually dare to treat me with such contempt? However, he was an extremely shrewd individual and would not blow his top easily. Thus, he said with a bright smile, young noble Ling is famous all over the world, and it is indeed better to witness you in person as compared to hearing your reputation. You are far too polite. This Zhou came from afar and is a guest here. How can I let young noble Ling come and pick me up personally? In the end, he still could not help but return Ling Tian's words back to him with sarcasm. Ling Tian laughed, subconsciously emanating a frivolous aura. Second master is praising me too much. This way please, this way please. He then stretched out his hands like a host receiving his guest, seeming to have taken Zhou Fengying's sarcasm as praise. Zhou Yanzu, who was by the side, felt more and more disgusted towards this silk pants teen. How can such an ignorant fool receive such praises from grandfather? Grandfather must be getting more and more muddled. With a grunt, she looked away from Ling Tian and looked at the lady beside him. The moment she looked at Ling Chen, she felt an inevitable sense of inferiority. Hearing about the infamy of Ling Tian and seeing how he acted so frivolously when welcoming them, Zhou Yanzu was extremely displeased in her heart. She originally didn't think much about the lady and thought that she would just be a prostitute from the brothel. However, but looking at the lady beside Ling Tian, her features were as perfect as one who came out from a painting, carrying with her a poised elegance and graceful charisma. Dressed in a pristine white long dress, she looked like a fairy who had descended into this world. Ling Chen, who had just received an affirmation by Ling Tian previously, was filled with happiness and satisfaction, making her seem even more radiant. At this moment, she revealed her eye-catching beauty. A lady deep in love was no doubt the most beautiful. At this moment, even a beauty like Zhou Yanzu could not hold a candle to her. A waste of a heavenly treasure. It is really such a waste of a heavenly treasure. What a pity. Such a beautiful lady is actually. Zhou Yanzu could not help but sigh in her heart. Under Ling Tian's seemingly warm welcome and Zhou Fengying's hypocritical politeness in response, the large group of them walked towards the city gates slowly. As they walked towards the red carpet, an emotional passion burned in Ling Chen's eyes. As she turned and looked towards Ling Tian, she saw Ling Tian nodding to her gently in response. In that moment, Ling Chen broke out into a beautiful smile and walked towards the red carpet with a few guards. How could Ling Chen bear to throw away this red carpet which was the witness for her happiness? Everyone's actions suddenly stopped. When they entered the city, there was a sudden change in the weather. The originally warm and gentle spring breeze suddenly became violent. In the violent and berserk winds, the sand and dust of the city was blown into the sky, forming a large cloud of dust covering the whole city. The flags of the sky-bearing army were rustling in the winds, looking as though they were about to be torn apart at any time. Dark clouds gathered swiftly from all directions, turning the originally bright sky pitch black. Among the dense dark clouds, there would be sparks of electrical snakes dancing within them from time to time. The mellow sound of thunder also sounded from afar like the war drums on a battlefield, gradually approaching the sky-bearing empire. The strong winds which came so suddenly also left suddenly, disappearing without a trace. The oppressive feeling which filled the place made time seemed like it had stopped. An eye-catching bolt of lightning suddenly tore apart the curtains of dense black clouds and entered the earth like a silver river flowing down from the heavens. In that moment, the only thing left behind was the brilliance of the bolt of lightning. Then, a sudden clap of thunder sounded, making the mountains and rivers seem as though they were all trembling. After a few droplets of rain, a downpour poured down from the sky mercilessly. The ferocity of the rain made it seem as though the heavens and earth were connected by it. A sudden storm. Under the merciless downpour, the whole sky-bearing city was covered in the power of nature. In just a short 2 hours, the flood in the city was already a foot high. At the end of spring and the start of summer, there was actually such a frightening thunderstorm. This was the first time something like this happened in the 100+ years of history of the sky-bearing empire. The night was still, with a lonely lamp in the heavy rain. Ling Tian was leaning on a couch in his bedroom, and there was no longer an arrogant look on his face. Instead, he looked calm and wise. With his eyes shut, it seemed as though he was thinking of something, but yet as though he wasn't thinking about anything. For such an expression to be seen on a 40-plus-year-old man, he would look extremely wise and reliable. But now that Ling Tian was still young, for a 15-plus-year-old child to put on such an expression, he looked a little too mature for his age. By his side, Ling Chen was seated down in blissfulness. Her lips were still curled up in a sweet smile, looking as though she was still immersed within the blessedness from the afternoon. In the banquet to receive the Zhou family, Zhou Yanzu had suddenly suggested that they stay at the Ling family courtyard temporarily. The reason she gave was the fact that their sudden appearance of 100+ people would bring inconveniences to the Ling family. However, old Madame Ling had turned down her request on the spot and ordered the maids to clean up a peaceful courtyard for the men from the Zhou family. While this matter was already over, it still made Ling Tian wary in his heart. When Zhou Yanzu had made the suggestion, Zhou Fengying had a face of anxiousness and excitement. Ling Tian could not help but sneer in his heart. It seems like the Zhou family has been paying close attention to my Ling family courtyard. But, so what if they paid close attention to us? This is the territory of this young noble. When you are here, you better oil up if you're a dragon and lay low if you're a tiger. Ling Tian then thought again, it would probably be weird if the Zhou family doesn't pay close attention to my Ling family courtyard. After all, that Zhou Fenghan had personally witnessed my means. If he doesn't pay some attention to me, he would not be living up to his name of the family head of the Zhou family. Towards those who were here from the Zhou family, Ling Tian would never let down his guard. After pondering a while, he could not help but chuckle as he thought of a few interesting ideas to pull the wool over their eyes. As Ling Chen saw Ling Tian laughing for no reason, she could not help but glare at him with her eyes wide open. As Ling Tian thought about how that lass, Zhou Yanzu, looked at him as though he was a cockroach, he could not help but feel slightly frustrated as he thought to himself, just how did Zhou Fenghan bring up this granddaughter of his? Why does she look at me as though we are mortal enemies? That old man had already tasted my means back then. Was he afraid that he would lose the bet but felt embarrassed to admit it? Looking at Ling Chen seated with her back facing him and head turned over with a questioning expression, Ling Tian had an inexplicable sense of satisfaction in his heart. Then, a sudden mischievous thought rose in his heart. This thought could no longer be restrained once it was released. Ling Tian then stretched out his hands and with a paw, slapped Ling Chen's buttocks lightly with a crisp sound. Ling Chen let out a nah, and held onto her buttocks with both her hands. Then, she jumped up in embarrassment and bashfulness. She then looked towards Ling Tian with both anger and joy. However, the only thing he witnessed was Ling Tian smelling the hand which he used to smack her with. How fragrant. He then could not help but twiddle with his fingers and let out a lecherous smile. How smooth. Ling Chen's face was completely red. Of all his followers, Ling Chen was the only one who wasn't afraid of Ling Tian and dared to tease him. She then wanted to pounce onto him to tickle him, but was caught by Ling Tian and dragged into his embrace. Feeling the warmth in Ling Tian's chest, Ling Chen could only help but feel her body go limp, collapsing in his embrace as happiness filled her heart. Just when Ling Tian wanted to tease Ling Chen, his body shook and a sharp glare could be seen from his eyes. His right hand, which was on Ling Chen's waist, also pressed down lightly. Chapter 155, Uninvited Guest. Ling Chen and Ling Tian were already at a stage where they could read each other's thoughts. She immediately knew that something must have definitely went wrong. Apart from the fact that she had not killed anyone before, Ling Tian's cultivation was probably even higher than Ling Tian's. Ling Tian then slipped out from Ling Tian's embrace and Ling Tian listened to his surroundings attentively for a moment. Ling Tian then laughed and said, "Chener, it seems as though we have an expert in our Ling mansion." Ling Tian asked, "Expert? What kind of expert?" However, the movement technique of this person is indeed exceptional. I failed to notice the person completely. Only when I focused my attention to search for him did I manage to find him. Ling Tian chuckled, "An expert thief. Chener, do not need to be unduly humble, this person's movement technique is indeed superior and even Mr. Yi would only be slightly better than him in this aspect. However, all other aspects are far from being a match to Mr. Yi. Haha, the pugilistic world has a saying, steal the winds but not the moon, steal the rain but not the snow. This fellow is quite harsh on himself, not taking care of his body and being out here in such a heavy rain. Interesting, interesting." As he stood up, he had already put on a black set of clothes for night movement and covered his face with a black mask. By his side, he could hear a rustling sound and Ling Tian saw that Ling Tian was also dressing up like him. He then could not help but laugh. "Lass, what are you doing? Wait for me in the room, you're not allowed to follow me." Ling Tian then said stubbornly, "No matter where the young noble goes, I will also follow you. Didn't young noble say that his martial arts cannot be compared to mine? Chener can definitely handle him." Ling Tian shook his head with a bitter laughter. "Chener, your martial arts have been improving at an astonishing rate. If it was any other time, I would let you go. But, aren't you experiencing some inconveniences with your body for these few days? How can I let you go out in such a huge rain? Stay at home and wait obediently." Ling Tian almost let out a shriek from the embarrassment and covered her mouth quickly. "You? How did you know? Bad young noble." Ling Tian giggled and whispered by her ears, "Why won't I know? Every month, there will always be a few days where the fragrance on my Chener's body would be much denser. How would it be possible for this young noble to not remember the smell of that fragrant lily?" Ling Tian covered her face in embarrassment, not daring to even lift up her head. She only stamped her foot angrily, wailing in non-compliance. She then heard Ling Tian's chuckle, followed by the sound of clothes fluttering in the air. Then, the room was void of Ling Tian's aura. Opening her eyes to take a look, Ling Tian had already disappeared completely, with water dripping down from the window. In this short frame of time, Ling Tian had opened the window and dashed out of it without making a single sound at all. It can be seen just how profound his movement technique was. Ling Tian then walked towards the window slowly with a warm smile on her face. Looking at the dripping window, the corner of her lips was raised in a smile as she mumbled, "What an attentive young noble, what a caring husband." Just when she said that, she felt her face burn from blissfulness. "Ah, how can I say something like that? Thankfully no one is around." Ling Tian's body drifted onto the roof and with a light tap of his feet, he drifted onto another tree 40 feet away. Hiding amongst the dense leaves, the rain continued to shower down and the sky seemed to be covered in a dense curtain of pearls. After Ling Tian left his room, he was already completely drenched. However, he was not bothered about that at all. This little bit of rain was nothing compared to the special training he had went through in his previous life. The sky was covered in a misty wave of rain. Ling Tian circulated his inner chi to his eyes and his sight penetrated through the rain and he monitored the surrounding. The tree which Ling Tian was on was the highest point in their Ling mansion. Looking out from here, he would be able to see the whole Ling mansion. This was also a measure which he had prepared intentionally. However, the rain today would obviously block his vision. After searching for a long time, Ling Tian found a blurry shadow by the roof of the Zhou family's courtyard, lying in wait silently. This person's movement technique was indeed exceptional. Ever since he was found out by Ling Tian until now, only a short few minutes had passed and he had already made his way to the Zhou family. Although Ling Tian was teasing Ling Tian previously, his mental state was still on alert. As he heard a strange sound flying past the roof of his room, he immediately realized that something was wrong. While the rain was pouring and this sound was almost inaudible, Ling Tian was still able to capture this oddity. You have to know, the thing most difficult to imitate in this world would be the sounds from nature. Those were sounds which were formed naturally and carried the natural rhythm of nature. No matter how meticulously or skillful man tries to simulate it, it was still formed intentionally and would never achieve the natural rhythm of nature. This was actually something which was extremely easy to understand. Take for example a musician or pianist, no matter how outstanding they would never be able to imitate the howling sounds of the wind. At the very most, they could only make it resemble the sound of wind, but no one would dare say that they would be able to imitate it completely. How can the sounds of nature ever be fully replicated by men? In his previous life, the Ling family had a special training in such an area. At the very end of the training, he would be blindfolded and expected to find the exact landing spot of a needle amidst the sound of 10 drums. Ling Tian's superhuman listening skills were honed from such training. In this point, Ling Tian was no weaker than any of the hidden weapons expert or even a tier above them. Seeing that the black-dressed figure was here to spy on the Zhou family, Ling Tian felt a sense of relief. In the past, the Ling mansion did not have much visitors. But just when the Zhou family arrived, an expert had descended upon their Ling family immediately. It turns out, this was all because of the Zhou family. No matter what kind of grievances this fellow had with the Zhou family, Ling Tian was completely unconcerned. The only thing he was interested in was the identity of this person. Who was this person? First, this person was obviously someone from the Sky-bearing Empire. To receive information the moment the Zhou family enters the city, he must definitely have a large information net. This was something which cannot be achieved without years of accumulation. Second, for this person to have such a superior movement technique, his martial arts shouldn't be too weak either. Third, to spy on the Zhou family in the rain, regardless of whether or not he was friend or foe, the matter must definitely be something out of the ordinary. With the above 3 reasons, Ling Tian was extremely interested in the identity of this person. Even though there was such an expert in the sky-bearing city, his huge information net was actually unable to capture any information at all. This was something which was just far too strange. Since this person was able to conceal himself so well without being found out, he definitely had another identity in the sky-bearing empire which would not draw the attention or suspicion of anyone in the city. Ling Tian did not dare to underestimate this black-dressed figure which was hiding on the roof of the Zhou family's courtyard. He would not let go the smallest bit of detail either, even if it was how many times he breathed in and out. Ling Tian was able to calculate it from the rise and fall of his body. At the same time, he began to analyze the situation in his mind and made a few guesses. While the rain looked extremely merciless, Ling Tian was still perched on the tree without a single bit of movement, as though he was part of the tree. With regards to the patients when lying in wait, if Ling Tian said that he was second, no one would dare proclaim that they are the first. Be it his previous or this life, Ling Tian had this confidence. To be able to conceal himself on the roof the heavily guarded main hall of the Shelline Temple without moving for a full 3 days and nights in the cold winter of -20 degrees, this was something which an ordinary person would definitely not be able to achieve. Suddenly, Ling Tian saw that the black-dressed figure shivered, probably being shocked from something he overheard from the Zhou family. He actually failed to guard his mental state. Failing to guard his mental state also meant that his whereabouts were revealed. Following which, the black-dressed figure flew up into the sky and sprinted towards the outside. He can also be said to be extremely decisive. At this moment, a loud shout sounded, "Who is that?" Following which, 3 figures appeared on the rooftop. From afar, Ling Tian only managed to tell that one of them was Zhou Fengying. Without any delay, they chased after the black-dressed figure. Ling Tian could not help but praise this person in his heart. After his body shivered, he knew that he had already exposed himself and escaped without the slightest bit of hesitation. He completely did not even hope for any form of luck. Able to put things down, extremely decisive. This person can also be said to be outstanding. Ling Tian nodded his head with praise. The reaction speed of those from the Zhou family also earned Ling Tian's praise. With such a slight movement, 3 top-notch experts jumped out immediately. They were definitely extremely cautious. However, Ling Tian did not know that the Zhou family was only this cautious because of him. Before Zhou Fengying came here, Zhou Fenghan had nagged at them to be careful about Ling Tian because his means were exceptional. While Zhou Fengying did not agree with him and Zhou Yanzu felt disdain in her heart, the both of them still chose to raise their guard. After all, they were still in the Ling mansion. If this silk pants young noble has some dirty thoughts towards Zhou Yanzu, that was something that must be guarded against. However, they never imagined that by being so cautious of Ling Tian, they actually managed to find a person on the roof right on their first day here. If Ling Tian knew about this reason, he would probably run to the kitchen and smash a piece of tofu on his face. Just what kind of a reputation did he have? If that black-dressed figure knew that she was exposed because of such a reason, the first thought in his mind would probably be to castrate Ling Tian first before continuing to spy on the Zhou family.